I find Jan, is asking a really compelling question. She says, you truly do start out with color spots like the Impressionists. And I still conclude extremely difficult to pull off. Yes, you can do it. And I'm sure with training there are some who can pull it off. But not all of us can. There is no way I could work this way. If the end results look similar, with proper attention to color, would it matter how you start? Perhaps just placement lines. Then work the way you do. You seem able to see the end right from the start of your picture and keep it firmly in mind throughout. Man, that's a good question. That's a good point, Jen. Because it's coming from somebody like myself who's done this his whole life and has found that this way works better. I mean, to say, I don't mean, you think it works better for you, but that's a phenomenally interesting question. Is it truly works better for you? Or are there best ways? And that's one of those things, my brother taught girls basketball. And everybody said when he started coaching, I say taught, he taught it more than he coached it, that girls couldn't shoot with one hand. And he said, well, they need to shoot with one hand because the accuracy level isn't as good with two hands. I mean, there's a reason why everybody in basketball, all the professionals, use one hand now. I mean, even right through those painful experiments of Wilt Chamberlain with the two-hand free throws. And I remember my dad actually playing basketball and doing things with two hands. And we today almost cringe at it, but it was actually the manner of the day. But it's fallen away. Why? Because the accuracy level goes way up with two hands. Now, I mean, with one hand. I'm talking about shooting a basketball. I'm talking about these ideas, even jumping when you shoot a basketball, why you need to do that. I mean, and I'm not going to get into the science of that, but the silly thing is he just kept starting to have winning teams with these girls' teams. The girls' percentages just went way up. So I'm going to argue with Jen that you got to consider the possibility that there are best practices, and you just really haven't explored this one. One thing he would do with the girls was he would say, no, you don't get to shoot any other way until you understand this way of working. And that's really what I would find the most compelling thing to say to you. You know, could you sort out this way of working? And just work with it and give it an honest chance, because you're not going to be able to do it otherwise. And the fact is, I think you're going to find that the most difficult thing, and at some point in the future I'm going to talk about that, is trying to do two ways at once. There are no two ways. There's one way to paint. And I'm talking about best practices. The old way was drawing things and coloring them in. And it is not best practices. It is far short. It doesn't get you to that. If you'd be right if you said, and if it would get you to the same place, but it doesn't get you to the same place. The Impressionist, and I'm talking now about an Impressionist who's the bigger eye. I'm talking about everyone from the Boston School to the Sargents, the Zorns, the Soroyas. All these guys quit doing. They started shooting with one hand. They stopped doing that other thing. And I suspect that most of them had been trained to do the other thing. But people were stopping doing Manet, others. They were all stopping that other thing at some point. They actually were finding that it made more sense. And it is generational. I mean, it falls away over generations. And you're in a position, and most people today are in a position of trying to come back, from, as Gamel was, to come back to something we all really loved. And we've fallen, thanks to Gamel's hard work and struggle, we've fallen into academic drawing as the way to get accurate likenesses of the look of nature in front of you. And I've shown you my work. I don't find that students can paint more accurately than I can who work from outlines. But I find that for sure that they fall far, far, far short. And I'm talking about the standard ways, that accuracy. But you'll find that they come far, far short, or to the point of not even having it all, those qualities that are related to the rest of the qualities that are related to the seen world. And I'm talking about this grand sense of spatial depth. the sense of light in a picture. I did have a couple students I've mentioned before that came out of the LAC background, and I said, well, I don't see a light in this picture. And she said, what? And she said, the values are right. And I said, how are the values right if it doesn't project the sense of light that the picture has? That's data. What is right if you don't have that data? The look of light. It's almost like saying I modeled. I don't care if it doesn't look like that form. I put middle tones in there and I made him graduate. So isn't that the same thing as modeling? Well, modeling by noodling is very different from modeling by form conception. And I mean to say, how can you model without a form concept? But people try to. They literally will sit next to their drawing like this, and there's nature over there, and they'll go like this, 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 as if it were with nary a thought to the form concept. And I'm saying you cannot get great form unless you get great form concepts, unless you conceive form in your mind. Well, it's exactly the same thing with light. If you don't have light concepts, you're not going to paint those values right. You're not going to incorporate enough data, like edge data or chroma or other things, if you don't have if you don't value getting the actual quality of the light, the sense of light. So I'm suggesting to you that you won't be able to get to the same place as I can in my work. And there are other reasons why it's not a best practice, and that is that, for example, it's not painterly. Paint doesn't work as well in the drawing outlines and modeling kind of a way. Paint brushes don't work as well. Paint doesn't look as nice. You can have, probably nobody's paint in the sense of those academics, nobody's paint looks any better than Ang's, but it never really has that quality of presenting as paint that is, it's almost like making something out of marble and not have it look like something that ought to be made out of marble. Making something out of bronze, it looks like it, making it into bronze, if you make it out of marble, you have a whole different sense of things than if you make it out of bronze. And it's going to do a different thing. Making it a thing out of clay in your hands is going to do a different thing from what you get in stone. And what I'm saying, though, is that there's this painterliness that I'm talking about isn't achievable. You can't do liquid transitions, painting from outlines. Now, you could try to incorporate them, and I think that's what you implied. Let's see if I can see what that line was you said. So what would matter how you start, and then, so if the end results look similar with proper attention to color, would it matter how you start? So all I want to really say, and I better stop this one short, is could you fully investigate this way of working before you make that judgment? Don't say you can't do it. In fact, that's what's so funny about that model I was giving you, the basketball girls, these are high school and junior high basketball girls, was that they said, and sometimes their mom or dad would come into the room and said they can't. They would say can't. And it was just like, can't, really true? You can't? That's why my brother would approach it. You can't. Okay. But have you tried? How have you tried? Have you actually played with it until you feel how it works? Have you played with it for a week? Have you played with it for a day after day for a while? It's like kids saying they can't ride bikes. I can't ride a bicycle. It's too hard, or my brain doesn't work that way. I don't know. But yeah, so have that in mind, though. Do explore this. Jan, please don't fall short. And the reason I say is because you're going to miss the party, and you're going to have your own kind of a party there. But we don't think that we're getting to the same place if you don't know these things. If you don't know what the values are, the fully incorporated values of the visual world. Don't assume we're going to get to the same place. Chances are not very good that we will. The chances are very good that we won't, actually. And I can give you specific examples with painters who have in these students at Gamels, who I can say are living examples of how this doesn't work, how it doesn't work out that way. So so all right. Well, let's stop at that. Hopefully that's meaningful for you. But I know you can do it, and I know what you're going to find out is that there's a delight in doing it. Once you find the way, it feels like, how was I doing this before? What was I doing before? And even better than that, I'm going to suggest to you something a hunter said to me, Robert Douglas Hunter. He said once, "Isn't this therapeutic? Isn't painting therapeutic?" And I thought you're insane. And I was a student with Gamma, I think, at the time, and I thought so far there's been nothing therapeutic. I mean, I had 3 months of labyrinthitis, and I believe it was entirely from the stress related to trying to paint. And by the way, part of what got me out of that was learning to meditate, actually, and to stop stressing and stop trying so hard and start listening and letting, and the whole mentality of letting the world, you're letting yourself find the way. You're looking for the way. And what else could I say except that there's a letting that's totally required to find the actual way that's best, and don't come to quick conclusions about how it must be. So yeah, you could do it. Now, I did want to finish with that idea, though, that it's therapeutic. So Bob is saying that to me. He says, "It's therapeutic," and he wasn't a guy who had an easy time through life. He had his difficulties and that sort of thing, but eventually I'd found that yes, it's therapeutic. You actually don't ever come into the room afraid of making a mistake. You now come into the room ready to explore. You come into the room ready to look and wonder, ready to make a mark as a question mark, and then explore how that can become something else with more information, and how you can, and ways to make marks so that you're in a fluid way of working so that you can make changes easily. All these things are a function of this idea of not just seeing the whole, but actually doing the whole all at once, which is really the hallmark of this way of painting. And I say doing the whole at once, I mean colors, values, I mean light effects, form, line, form, I mean everything that you can see is yours at a given moment, and you must be ready and willing to work with it, because that, whatever that odd thing is, that all the horses at once, that horse is the one you need now, right? So I say that just by way of trying to maybe excite you a little bit. This is such a compelling way of working, and it's such a relief once you find your way in. That and just in my house are pleasures forevermore, to quote, or in my Father's house, to quote Scripture, to quote Christ, I think. But it is very true of doing this, of doing right, that there's a level of pleasure. There's a way that seems right. And I think we're in that mood right now with the new realism. There's this way that seems right. But in the end, we've been there. Men have found there's a better way. And it is an easy way. My yoke is easy. All right, now I sound like the preacher. All right, I guess I am. All right, Jan, continue it, okay? Keep listening, give it a good shot. Thank you all for your comments, for being there, sharing, and all the rest. All right, next time.